if you could explain what is the crack?
Hey,
The crack.
how can I have the crack? What's the crack?
What is the crack? You are the crack.
Welcome back to Audio Crack. This is probably the July 1st episode. We have a very special guest, Jack Mac. This is probably airing on July 4th week. This is going to be the only Audio Crack episode this week. So, you know, if you're looking for some crack later in the week, just like restrain yourself, maybe 20 to 30 minutes into this episode, cut it off. But there's also
Or go back and listen to old ones.
Yeah.
How many are, is there 20 now?
Yeah.
Or-
By the time this airs, there'll be around 20.
Yeah, I know. I remember there was 14 or so recently. So that would add up. 20, not a lot of podcasts make it to 20. Like, I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a joke. I think probably there's one, if you get to 20, you're probably more likely than ever to get to 100 or 150 or even more, because it's probably once you get past like a 7 or 8, it's probably a sign that you're going to do it for a while.
We're surviving. We're surviving. By the time you listen to this, we might have an advertiser. So you might be getting a little ad slipped in, like a real ad.
Huge. We love ads.
Huge for the program. If you want to advertise with Audio Crack, please hit me up, BillyFootball@barstoolsports.com. We can get
Is that actually your email?
Yeah, they made me Billy Football.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
But you just prefer Billy at this point, right?
Yeah, Bill. I mean, I'm going to get back into football in football season.
But not even like that you're not into football. It's just more like, oh, you're just Billy now. Like Billy Football was like PMT Billy.
Yeah, I mean, it was just I was obsessed with football. I don't play football anymore. I didn't.
Uganda, yeah.
Yeah, I play professional overseas, so maybe I could claim that name. But there's guys who like Will Compton, if he went by Bill, could be Billy Football more than I could be Billy Football in the Barstool.
All right, that's fair.
It's one of those things I kind of started to feel like a fraud.
Oh, I wouldn't even think it was a fraud, but I get that feeling, and it's better. Billy's a good name too. So
yeah, so all good. This episode is going to be a little American centric, but we're going to get through some stuff in the beginning. Some stuff I want to run by Jack Mac. First off,
because I don't have a topic.
No, I think we're just going to say like
I know you said it's American based, but sometimes we've come in with topics. But I know you have specific topics, but this one's a little bit more of a one that I don't necessarily have one that I came in wanting to talk about anything. I did see a quote from Fauci this morning, just to throw back to our first episode.
Yes.
He feels hurt that the American people don't appreciate his effort in the all-time fraud, one of the biggest frauds in the history of America.
I mean, I think honestly,
so cocky.
The theme of this episode should be why you shouldn't trust the government and why we.
Yeah. I mean, there's some parts we can, but overall, it's better not to. Fauci said, if you don't trust me, you don't trust science. He made himself the face of science. All-time fraud. He destroyed my trust in science without a doubt.
I mean, literally, I had a scientist with way more degrees than Fauci on this podcast, Josie Zahner, who made a DNA-based vaccine January 2020 before any vaccine was out, put out an open-based, like she's a biochemist. She's worked with viruses. She's worked in microbiology, worked for NASA. She basically outlined how to make a COVID-19 vaccine in the traditional sense, like how like dead vaccine, as opposed to
yeah. I remember you described this when we talked last.
So after speaking to her, I realized like, holy shit, this is crazy, because basically what she did and why they banned her off the internet is because she let the knowledge so that like places like India, which actually ended up doing it, but like countries around the world could make their own vaccines in their own labs and not have to rely on an American centric corporate rollout.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. I mean, did you see Don Lemon's interview with the Nelk Boys?
I saw clippets of it. But.
Boy, he was essentially saying, "Oh, what were we supposed to do?" They banned people from the internet, like they banned people off of YouTube and whatnot if you even question the vaccine. And he was like, "Well, what were we supposed to do?" Not that. Like it was just, it's still so funny that people have. I had a tweet even after we went on. I went on talking about how they had kids wear masks until they were like 2022, 2023, and people were replying like, "Oh, the kids have to wear masks." kids are fucked up. Like not kids in general, like from this specific.
Yeah.
There's kids that like their reading levels are city level reading levels at this point.
Their language processing skills, it's across the board. And this is from anecdotal evidence and testing evidence. Kids who like early formation years were during the pandemic, during lockdowns, they were not able to verbalize and have verbal reasoning skills as well as kids pre. And this is like across the board. Like kids are going into preschool, kindergarten, and yeah, speech skills aren't the best then, but they're way behind, way behind.
Yeah, I don't even know if we'll fully know the effects until who knows. I mean, I don't even know what to say. It's a real shame. More kids are not going to school as much. Hopefully that's more because there's like absences are through the roof. Hopefully that's because people are homeschooling their kids, not because kids just aren't getting education. I don't know. I mean, it's a damn shame, but then to hear the people that really propagated it. I mean, this man, a direct quote from Anthony Fauci was, and that's when I told the president, I'm going to shut down the country. Oh, you should shut down the country. And then he said 2 years later, I never told the president to shut down the country. Yet you said it, he bragged about it in like a podcast. He wrote a book.
Yeah.
Zelensky, another guy, he wrote a book in the middle of a war. How do you have time for that? I thought it was
ghostwriters.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, that guy's a major politician because as in someone in the political world, you're looking for funding all the time. You're looking for funding for your campaign. That was something I was like, oh man, this is really what you're doing 24/7. That guy's going around the world looking for money at all times. And to their credit, I mean, if you look at the 2 years that Russia has invaded Ukraine, they have not gained that much land mass.
Who's winning that war?
We don't know. From the sounds of it, the Ukrainians only give up land when they run out of ammo because Russia's just doing old school body waves, just waves of soldiers. But I was looking at it, like armies in 2 years who are invading tend to take a lot more land. I was looking at some historical references of like Napoleon, what he did in 2 years. H-Man, what he did in 2 years. H-Man took over pretty much the whole continental Europe up to Russia in 2 years. And we are now 2 years later in this war, and they've really only taken a couple miles.
Yeah, I don't know. I am not an expert in any way on the Ukrainian-Russian war. Obviously, you have to be careful with what you see on the internet. The videos and people like the Ukrainians army, it seems like there's even like really old men that they're enlisting on front lines, which is very I understand that you kind of have to do whatever you can do. It's war times, but it is a little bit concerning.
I mean,
but I understand. I don't know who's winning yet.
Yeah. Getting back to Fauci, the craziest thing is, they talk about, like, let's take liberal thinking. They want, peace on earth. They want, access for healthcare for all, cheap access to healthcare. This guy, Josie Zahner, produced an open source vaccine so that the entire world could get it for free and learn how to develop their own vaccine for free. And the liberal media pushed a corporate, basically profit maximizing scheme in order to just maximize their shareholders' value.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about the vaccine from that the person you had on. I would assume that there is a belief process that would say they wanted to not allow that to happen from a profit point of view. The vaccine is I don't know. It's not really even a vaccine. You can't really even
I got it confirmed from.
They kind of like have almost admitted to that it's not a vaccine anymore. It was
gene therapy.
Yeah, they said. I think there was maybe even the World Health Organization said recently it's not a vaccine. It's not categorized. It was never, and people said that, but that was another thing that would get you kicked off the internet.
And they changed
they kicked people off the internet. I don't think people remember that.
Yeah.
People said, vaccine bad or question the vaccine, like people that had degrees from huge universities were kicked off the internet, and people look back and they said, what were we supposed to do? Not that.
I mean, it was like, quote, like from a biohacker who did gene therapies on themselves, like on other types of genes, said it was a gene therapy.
I think it's even not even obviously much respect to her.
Yeah.
Even more than that, it's like almost consensus that I think even when your medical reports now, it will not go under a vaccine if you got it. It's known as something else.
mRNA therapy.
Yeah, it's a therapy. And I mean, I'm not going to straight up say it didn't work, but I don't know. Yeah,
it worked. I mean, it worked from like their plan worked. I don't know if the vaccine actually helped. Like,
yeah, who knows? I mean, it's yeah. Another one that I spent some time looking at last night. It's really interesting how the largest mass shooting in American history, just like it's never talked about.
Yeah, I know.
There's not like a day.
I once tried to talk about it on macrodosing, and the person who was hosting the show just would keep reading the official law, like police report on the entire
well, if
thing.
you want to talk about police report and then what went on there, the FBI still has no motive. The FBI's latest documents that were released last year said, quote unquote, he was mad at the casinos.
That is ridiculous.
So, but even outside of, let's say, conspiracy theories removed,
yeah,
there's other large mass shootings that people talk about. The anniversary that's never discussed.
Oh yeah,
it was what was 7 years ago. The anniversary was recently. It's just not discussed. It's very weird. Like it's not even discussed. There's no real. Maybe it's because we're on the East Coast, but there's not. This is the day that this happened. Please remember it.
You know what's the most fucked up part about it? Like native Las Vegans, right? As a lot of people know about Las Vegas is that like local people don't go to the strip that much.
Yeah,
they will on occasion, but it's like, you know, New Yorkers aren't going to Times Square or Empire State Building. So there's no real base of like people who are together, like saying like, what the fuck happened? It's just a bunch of.
But Vegas is pretty big, like in terms of like a lot of people live there. Like you don't even realize it.
Yeah, but the craziest thing about that shooting is now bump stocks are legal again.
Well, some people believe there was no bump stocks used in that.
I don't think so. Like there was military, like veterans at the country concert who were like, that was a straight up like
federal
cal, yeah,
federal machine gun,
yeah,
like not a bump stock. Like, and now I don't want to act, and I know they're legal again now, and that changed recently. I'm not an expert in that in any way, but I do know that there is a belief process that what was being shot, the rounds per second, was not due to a bump stock, which again, it's all, I mean, the guy supposedly had 32 guns up there.
I mean, it was obvious the guy's an arms dealer. The guy was an arms dealer. It's like no one has access to that amount of guns, that amount of like, he was an arms dealer that was doing deals out of a casino.
Yeah, and then he went up. There is like, people are like, oh, how did he get it all up there? There is video of him taking it all up. It's crazy. I don't even have like necessarily a theory on why it was you. Like, what is he? I don't even know. Like, it's not even like, oh, they did this because of this. I don't even. I just know that there was no motive. His girlfriend like left the country. Now she's come back. She has like a really nice house, I think, in California.
She came back.
Yeah, look up her house in California, and then she has like a $2 million house. And then his brother just happened like to be a pedophile.
No, so there's two brothers. One brother came out to speak out like, I have no idea how this could happen. Like my brother.
And he was a pedophile, right?
Yeah.
And then
the house burnt down.
Yes.
Got raided.
And then also they found a computer in his room, but there was no hard drive in it.
Yeah.
What he took his hard drive with him, or he took a computer without a hard drive. That's also, it's one of those that there's a lot of questions, and it's the deadliest mass shooting in American history.
And we haven't.
And we don't really, and I understand that maybe the FBI,
Dude,
the FBI spent more time trying to lock up 60-year-olds that are on January 6th. Like, I don't really even know what to say about the FBI.
I'm pulling out my old prep notes because I did another podcast on another podcast. You can guess which one, about the Vegas shooting. And they were like, you can't say some of this stuff. And I'm like, fuck it. No, we're saying this shit. Basically, there is evidence that there was a Saudi Arabian crown prince. Remember when who's the current guy? MHS, who got Khashoggi?
Yeah.
So remember, during that time, there was a huge crackdown in the Saudi royal family, going after enemies of MHS.
Yeah, MHS. Mohammed
bin Salman, MBS.
Maybe it's MBS.
Yeah,
MHS is something else.
Yeah.
MBS, it's Mohammed bin Salman. Yeah.
So,
I know who he is. I can picture him.
So he had a huge crackdown around Khashoggi. He wanted everyone to be loyal to him. So, of course, you had a high roller, and they have evidence of this.
Also, the cameras on his floor didn't work that night.
And the craziest thing is
on the 32nd floor. First of all, in Vegas, cameras work all the time.
Yeah.
Money's on the line. Like, it's like,
dude, you can't get
it with anything.
If you pull out your phone at a blackjack table,
yeah,
like just texting,
yeah,
they're on you.
Yeah.
2 seconds, the pit boss is coming over, and it's not because he sees you, it's because the eye in the sky.
They have eyes in the sky everywhere. And then also, where it was coming from was this wasn't a random ass hotel. He was on the 32nd floor of a very nice hotel. It's very unfortunate. And then also, like, maybe they do really honor it in Vegas and we're not out there, but
I was in Vegas for a bachelor party. I asked the guy who lived in Vegas, and he was like, look, I was like, do you know people who were affected? And he was like, well, no, the reality is most of the people at that concert were tourists.
But then also the guy, there was some guy went on the Ellen show, the next
security guard
the next day or 2 days later, and then he disappeared from the world.
Yeah.
No one knows where he is.
I need to find.
No, it's
Jesus Campos.
You know who you should have. I'm going to give you somebody you should have on for the Vegas shooting.
Who?
I'm going to tell you his name right now. I took a screenshot of him just so you guys can discuss it. And also, I want to make clear when we're discussing this, it's not a conspiracy that anybody died. People die.
Yes.
And they're the victims, and that's incredibly traumatic. I know someone who was at the concert. That's not what we're talking. We're just like, what happened?
If they deserve anyone who
John Cullen you should have on.
Yeah, so
you could get him on.
The Vegas security guard was pressured to give his interview in Las Vegas to Ellen DeGeneres because company bigwigs feared a real journalist would have grilled him about the timeline. So the timeline he gave was bad.
I remember that too.
Yeah, but officials later changed the timeline and claimed that he'd actually been targeted before the killing started, not after. So it was so weird. I mean, the thing.
And also, there was 2 gunshots an hour after it all went down.
Yeah,
which supposedly is what killed. I don't know, 2 gunshots. Usually, if you're going to kill yourself, it's 1.
Right, and also, if you look at the pictures of him dead, the bullet casings are above the pool of blood, which is like, that means that this guy, the bullet casings fell on top of the pool of blood, not before he killed himself. So after he killed himself, the bullet casings got into the pool of blood.
Yeah.
Which means that the shooting happened after he was dead.
Yeah, it would be quite frustrating and people will point out to like who the police chief was and whatnot, but it could be above the like Vegas police chief. There could be situations there.
Well, he could just be there for cover-ups.
Then now he's in Maui.
Then the Maui fire. The thing is, they do call Vegas the 9th island.
Okay. I haven't really get it. I just know he's in Maui now.
Yeah, because there's like Hawaii's become so expensive, and a lot of the hospitality business type
people will go there.
People will, like, with experience from working in Hawaii and hospitality, go to Vegas because they can work year round.
Got it.
And it's like but I have so many notes if I can find them. But the craziest part about that was that you had country singers being like, I know what I heard when I was on stage.
The hearing part's a little difficult because in traumatic experiences, like oftentimes
in the echo,
witnesses, and there's a lot of people, the witnesses, because people were certain that the helicopter, there's a helicopter.
Oh, so back to MBS. So they think there was someone that MBS wanted dead, one of these random princes, because there's tons of like people who are part of the Saudi royal family, because Saud, the House of Saud, is like the ruling class there, and it's basically this all family part of this one tribe, and they're all loaded from oil money. So one of them who might have talked shit about MBS when he's cracking down is up in one of the high roller suites. And I think there is a conspiracy that came up. This might not be true, but do your own research. Was that a kill team was sent by MBS to kill this certain Saudi family member who wasn't abiding by his rule, and they went to buy guns from Stephen Paddock, who was a arms dealer. Bought the guns, went right upstairs, realized that this guy, they got into a shootout. Everybody got shot. The FBI was involved. Something crazy happened. And then to cover it up, they just started shooting out the windows to pretend like it was a mass shooting and that Stephen Paddock was the mass shooter. And the thing is, that helicopter thing that they talk about, the helicopter being found on the top of the Mandalay Bay.
Yeah. And then there was helicopters. You can see it in the videos. They were like, now there may be helicopters all the time in Vegas. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but there's something about, and if you look at the air traffic control, there's a lot of discrepancies that are weird.
And then also
there was a shootout at the airport, at the private airport.
Oh, there was?
That was something that was reported that night.
And then there was a lot of eyewitness or people who were there who said they were certain that the shooting was coming from the helicopters. Now, again, eyewitness reports, especially specifically in traumatic events just like that, they're not necessarily the most trustworthy, just based upon how the human mind works and whatnot. But I listened to something last night of a woman giving an interview after and saying, we were certain that it came from the helicopter. Of course, you may think that when it's spraying down, but
oh my God, I just found my 24 pages of notes on the Vegas shooting. So yeah, this is crazy. Officer Tim Broadway with the Reno Police Department said the suspect or suspects broke into the home. So this is what happened to the Reno police. They shut down his house, and apparently suspect or suspects broke into Stephen Paddock's home through the front door over the weekend, noting he was not sure exactly how the suspects gained entry. Reno officers arrived on scene and immediately notified the FBI to make sure there was no further incidents. There was not aware of anything that was taken or whether there's any damages, but the guy's hard drive's gone. So
the hard drive being gone was bizarre.
Yeah. So ISIS claimed.
And also, where did this guy work again?
He was retired.
Yeah, but he worked somewhere that was like bizarre. He was I forget.
So Bruce Paddock was arrested Wednesday in LA. He wasn't considered a suspect, but he was under investigation because of child pornography. So after. So, I mean, looking through all these notes, the craziest thing is that October 1st, 2017, confirming that one suspect is down. This is an active investigation. Again, please do not head down to the Strip at this time. We've got citizens advising that a Ford Super Duty dually white pickup truck with the plate 44 XLM pulled up and a guy with a rifle got out and ran northbound. So there's all of these reports that there was hostages. Like if you look at the 911 calls from that night, 911 call number 675, woman reports hostages at Brooksea, which was a restaurant. One suspect down at Trop, it sounds like. They said they killed someone at the Tropicana, not the Mandalay Bay. Whatever happened that night, there was multiple reports of shooting throughout the Strip. Like the gunman charged them, made it through the door, struggled with the officers, and was able to get off at least one shot, wounding one SWAT officer in the leg. The amount of crazy stuff. Yeah, so there was a shooting inside the Bellagio. Throughout the night, there was multiple shooting reports on the Strip. This was the craziest thing that I got from my notes. And then also cell phone records for all of Paddock's phones showed that, yeah, digital photographs taken of broken pieces of black firearm magazines of 4 cartridges. The weirdest stuff was the ghost flights. It's actually insane how many reported shootings there were that night up and down the
Is
strip.
that common in Vegas?
For shootings to break out?
Yeah, probably not, right?
Well, no, because there's metal detectors in every, like,
It's very true.
yeah.
There's no way you can get a gun inside a casino in Vegas unless you're like an armed individual that is like a cop, military, whatever.
I mean, it is wild. I have so many notes for this episode. I mean, we should definitely have that guy on. But moving on, Conor McGregor, is he in rehab? Do you believe what Chael Sonnen said?
Chael Sonnen said he's in rehab.
Chael Sonnen said, look, there's both parties are very interested in promoting alcohol brands. But the thing is, we got a guy in rehab on one side of the fight. That Chael Sonnen said that out loud on TV, that he thinks Conor McGregor's in rehab.
Well, is it possible he meant like rehab injury?
No, alcohol treatment.
I mean, it's possible. I think he just was injured.
I mean, the photos of him lately, like the newest photos he put out with him with the bald head. I mean,
Okay, what was the bald head, do you think?
like, why do you think he shaved his head?
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
He was doing Hajj. He went to he was doing his pilgrimage. He's a Muslim now. So he cut his hair and then he went to Mecca.
I don't know. I think the thing is, when you do that much juice and you come down from like tons of steroids.
Oh, you think he went crazy?
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
no, that is true. The effects of steroids and then getting off can be very, very detrimental.
Ryan Garcia, SARMs make you go nuts.
Yeah, but it appeared he was not using Osterin.
No, they had him.
Now look up the trace amounts in his system. What they
Right.
found in the second and third times were so minimal that he said that it was probably a tainted supplement. That what he didn't. It would have been impossible to take Osterin and get that little amount in you. But he could be on other stuff, or maybe, I mean, who knows? But I do think he was found to have Osterin in his system, but it was legitimate trace amounts. It couldn't have helped him in any way.
I don't know. He kind of bulked up like pretty decently since the
Yeah, but his last fight against Gervonta,
yeah.
he was like, they drained him, like legitimately drained him, and he had no rehydration clause. This one he did, and he just came in like 3 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
Which I think is like, I mean, the jump from 135 to 145 isn't that crazy.
I mean, Ryan Garcia is gone a little crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he is a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's an act or whatnot. He
got arrested and apprehended and hospitalized. Remember, he said they were shooting him up with weird drugs, and he was being hospitalized.
he was hospitalized recently, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's like it could be an act or whatnot. I don't know. The man boxed his face off against a very good. I know people have got like Devin Haney's not what everyone thought he was, but like Devin Haney's really good, and he really boxed his face off. It would have been hard to be doing like no training or anything. But Ryan is but also maybe he's just a little bit crazy. He also said he predicted that earthquake, which there's an earthquake like every second in fucking California.
Yeah.
But he's something. Ryan is something. It does look like he's just high on cocaine all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's that whole psychosis thing is fucking terrifying. Because like, how old are those guys?
What psychosis good?
Well, like sometimes when you just like dudes in their 20s like go crazy.
That is very true. If you're a male,
yeah,
and you get past like 25 or so without any real true mental health issues, like obviously there's chances you can become depressed and whatnot, but we're talking like the ones that are very like few and far between, like schizophrenia.
Yeah.
It usually happens
By
like
40.
20 to like 25, or even maybe a little bit.
I think 30, you're out of the woods.
Yeah, you're usually like, if there's no signs of you being like a complete and utter psychopath, you're usually pretty good. That doesn't mean there can't be other issues, but if you get to 30 without those and these are very small percentages. This isn't mental health in terms of, oh, you feel depressed. This is like true, like institutionalized, like
the thing is stuff with like, you know, anything that raises your dopamine level super high is going to end up giving you a little bit psychosis. So marijuana, steroids, psychedelics, cocaine, stimulants, if you like if you're predisposed and you do a bunch of that stuff, you're going to go crazy.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any way we can, you know how like I've always had a theory that there's certain people who like can play contact sports like football or boxing or MMA, and there's certain people who really can't.
Yeah.
Like because it's not equal. Like I think there's some guys who can lead with their head their entire football career and not get CTE. And then there's a grandma who gets CTE because she like did some water skiing when she was like in her 20s. Like there's like I would assume at some point we may be able to find something that says you have this gene, that gene.
So you're allowed to play.
Yeah. Or like if like you're like not predisposed to more, whatever it is, concussion issues or like whatnot. Maybe there's something here too, where it's like, if you're predisposed to high dopamine levels, you should really stay away from these.
Yeah. Imagine if you got a drug test like day one and you just got a map like, yo, you can drink as much alcohol as you want and you won't get addicted, but like, don't try a cigarette or don't try marijuana.
Like really stay away from these, like, because you are at risk. It's almost like pre-diabetes or something, which obviously is a lot different. But like, if you have this, you have to be really, really careful. And now, obviously, the old school way to do that is if your father was like that or your mother, you're probably like that. But sometimes it's not as simple.
Oh, the recessive genes are such a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, everyone's like, you know, your parents may be fine, but your grandparents.
Yeah, that's also true. Or even great like it could go like it can go deep, which is but we're at a point now. I wouldn't be shocked if like with AI and whatnot, you could give them your gene makeup at the age of 10 or 11, and they'll give you like the AI in 5 to 10 years will be able to predict any potential issues and how to
Well, dude, I mean, I gave away my DNA data to ancestry.com just because.
Yeah, China owns it now.
China owns it?
No, I'm just kidding. I think there was like a belief, but anyways.
I think the government owns it. They're using that to solve cold cases.
So yeah, or ancestry.com, if you have all of this DNA, it's essentially like, did you see what Adobe's doing?
Yeah, they own.
I did a TikTok on it, and they're owning everything.
Yeah.
And people were like, oh, they're going to sell my stuff. No, they're just using you to create the greatest AI, Photoshop, whatnot of all time. And which is kind of, how do you handle that as a human being? Because you're like, you have this platform that's really good, but they're using it to essentially make my job obsolete as a producer, as a graphic editor, as whatnot. Right. And Adobe is essentially saying, we own your stuff. We're not going to sell it. They said they could, but we're using it to make the greatest AI base of all time. I mean, data is everything. Like that's all people want now, I would assume.
Oh yeah.
Like they don't care about like they'll just have companies that are essentially fronts just for data. Remember that stupid
Pokemon Go?
Pokemon Go, maybe. There was this cryptocurrency that
oh yeah, when you'd have to log in and you'd have to mine.
Yeah.
Were we both in on that?
No, I didn't, because I knew it was a fucking scam.
Well, yeah.
And what's his name? Marty.
I was actually the richest in it because I tweeted the link. What was it? Picoin.
They probably just like, while you were mining, they just had access to your entire phone. And then they just like went and sold. Like you're fine. They're not gonna. They just probably like just sold it to advertisers.
Let's see what Picoin's doing.
Picoin never is zero. It's 0 cents. There's no value.
Oh
no, it did go up at one point, but it was not. You can't use it.
I literally had billions of it. If it went to 1 cent, I think I would have been like.
Yeah, but there was nobody to buy it.
True. Yeah, that's why you can't like. Yeah, I mean that's why you can only do Bitcoin, because I feel like everything else.
Ethereum's pretty good, I would say. There's some good ones, but like then like on Solana, on Sol, a lot of these
Mhm.
celebrities are launching their own coins, and then they just take everybody's money. Dylan Dennis,
Yeah.
he rugged everybody today.
How much did he make off of it?
Probably, I don't know, $10,000.
I mean, that's a low, like, for your reputation, that's a low grade scam.
Yeah, if a celebrity out there is making a coin, like they're just scamming you. There's no utility to it. You might like those celebrities might as well just make a GoFundMe. Like, I need some money, guys.
Yeah. I mean, I saw the Tate brothers were doing a daddy coin and
Yeah.
to 100 million. He was like, I'll just take the 100 million. He was like, I'm not going to. And they're just pumping it.
They may like yeah, I have no idea. Yeah, I didn't see that, but they make these coins, there's no real use to them.
Why don't they make a coin that basically is for all those celebrity pump and dumpers, but just basically they're all the same coin. They're just under different names, but they're like a conglomerate of all of them.
You mean like an ETF of every celebrity coin?
Yeah, but like,
Or like a mutual fund?
it's like it's a mutual coin of like a bunch of celebrities.
But it would just go to zero.
I know. Like they did, just like some guys would pull the rug out, but you'd start a new one. It's a Ponzi scheme with celebrity coins.
I mean, maybe I think there's this one guy who's been doing a lot of them. He did the one with Caitlyn Jenner. He did one with Floyd Mayweather. He's big on Instagram, but he just essentially launches celebrity coins, rugs them, takes money, and then just repeats. I just it's crazy town. It
should
really
be
is.
illegal.
What?
It should be illegal.
No.
You don't think it should be regulated? I
No,
mean,
who should regulate that?
unregulated? Just
You what? You want the internet regulated now? Like, fuck off.
Nah.
There
Okay.
is, I mean, in any instance, like, do you want like alcohol regulated because some people are alcoholics? Like, no.
Well, it is pretty highly regulated.
In what way?
You can't buy it on certain days.
Okay.
Sunday mornings. You can't travel across state lines and then go sell alcohol. I'm pretty sure.
All right. So yeah, you
There's
are right.
regulation.
There is regulation.
Alcohol's been very heavily regulated.
And you can't just launch an alcohol company with
Yeah.
on your laptop.
I can't just
Bad
mix
example by me.
Everclear, but
You could, but if you sold it, I think it'd be illegal.
yeah,
Like you could
can't
sell it
just-
to your buddies, but
like if you just mixed Everclear with protein powder and was like,
yeah, I made the first protein drink. I think someone
is
tried to
one.
do,
They
but I think
sent
it
it
was
to me.
really bad.
it actually tastes like Danimals.
The animals is not bad.
I know it tastes like Danimals.
How much protein was in it? Like 12 grams?
There was like 15 grams of protein,
Not bad.
9% alcohol, tasted like Danimals. I was like, I couldn't drink more than 2 of these
Because it was thick. Pause.
Yeah. It actually wasn't. It was more that it was like, it wasn't milky. It just tasted like that was the
Well, it
flavor.
makes sense. The protein would probably make it more like the.
And you could disguise it with a fruity taste.
That makes sense. I mean, that's probably that's the ultimate bro drink, though.
Yeah.
If you can
protein.
get that right, I think you could really
The thing is, it just doesn't make sense to metabolize.
metabolizing. You
Yeah.
are right. The body probably is just like.
I mean, if you could I just don't understand how dudes were able to drink so much like 50 years ago and like function. Like do you think about how drunk our society used to be?
I think it was. You are right, but you also have to remember those people died a lot earlier.
Yeah.
And look at how people looked. They looked old as fuck.
Yeah.
And on top of it, it's possible their diets were a lot different than ours are. Ours are much more processed and whatnot.
Yeah.
So like maybe like if you were eating like them back in the day and you just ate and you drank, maybe the body as a whole metabolized it differently and you could drink more, quote unquote.
Yeah. Maybe because probably there's so many preservatives in alcohol nowadays.
I would assume it's everywhere. Back in the day, it was probably much more quote unquote pure.
Yeah.
And like that's why the guy could drink whiskey every day. Like he would go to lunch, he would drink,
Yeah.
then he would have his whiskey at like 4 p.m. Then he'd go home and he'd drink. But like it was every day. But there are high functioning alcoholics.
I mean, they literally madmen just like got to the office and like said hello to everybody and sit down to finally do your work at 10. It's just like, oh, like Irish coffee.
And if you do it every day, your body may get to the point of like, as long as you have it, you can function.
It's one of those things where like we should make a beer now that is just like, you know how there's really good ice cream that has no additives and it's just egg, like the original ingredients. We should do it that with beer.
Is it possible with all the grains and whatnot? Like, are they? They're all
GMO?
preserved.
I mean, the beer I had in Uganda, no hangover.
That's very interesting, and it's probably because like all it could be chemical. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
There's no chemicals in it. It's just it's brewed. It's beer. There. It's beer. How beer should be. And I was like looking at all the stats on it.
What was like the alcohol, like ABV?
4.
Okay, so it's normal.
It was normal. 4.5%. God, am I really about to forget the name of the beer? It was like amazing. It was called like Champ or something. I gotta look that up. But it was like amazing beer, and we just drink it like because we couldn't drink the water. So
now people do say when they go over to like Italy or whatnot, like they're like when they have the pasta, when they have the food, and they drink a lot, they have no hangovers. But also, is that because you're on vacation?
Yeah,
there could be a point of like dopamine and whatnot that is kind of like there's no stress, like there's nothing going on.
Club beer is the beer from Uganda. But I think there is an element of like ingredients in our food that are just illegal in other countries. There is that whole thing. I mean, like if you look at the pasta in Italy, it's totally different. They're not putting all the fortified grains. What is that one chemical? I want to say it's niacin, but it's like something different that they spray on all the grains here. So we're basically just eating poison.
Yeah, I don't like it's crazy how everything just I have no idea.
Wow.
But then again, like I wouldn't want to live in Italy.
Why would you say that? Just because
like Dante said the other day, like he tweeted out, he said, like, once I fix this country, then I'll go. Then before that, because he got his Italian citizenship, he's like, then I'm gonna go to Italy. Like I'll never talk to you guys again. It's like, bro, Italy's not doing well. I mean, I guess if you have unlimited money, it's fine. But if you have unlimited money, you're good anywhere outside of like a few.
They're selling a lot of houses in Italy for €1.
Yes, because nobody has money. Nobody has jobs.
Yeah,
and then also like I mean, the Italy specifically. I mean, what that prime minister did to Italy was like fucked. Do you remember? She said she was anti-immigration. Mm-hmm. She was not going to. She made herself seem she was almost like a Trojan horse, and all the Italian people voted for her, and they were like, "Oh, this alt-right woman was elected in Italy." Now there's more immigrants in Italy than ever. Have you seen like shots of like Napoli and whatnot?
But was that her doing, or was that?
I think she hasn't fought it as they thought. Also, another one that I'm really interested in right now is what's happening in Argentina. They elected that guy, but then there's a lot of civil unrest. But there are people in Argentina that's saying the civil unrest is not that high. It's just that's what people are being reported as. But it's a very interesting case study because you look at what's going on there. He's essentially like rotting the country of all the like poison of the country, whether that's social programs or whatnot.
Right.
But it's almost like the first 6 months. You know how it's like, if you really start working out, like the first part is really hard.
Yeah.
Like
a lot of soreness,
a lot of like issues. But once you get to that point of like, oh, you've like made it, like what he's almost getting to, like, he's like the country's like went to rock bottom. But now the inflation levels are getting back to a point that they've never been. It's kind of getting to a point where there's more jobs that are being made, but there's a lot of civil unrest because people want it to happen immediately. Yeah. Now, I don't blame these people because they have to have jobs. They have families they need to provide. But his plan was essentially like to go into a system and change it completely. You have to get rid of everything. And then if you break the entire system, there's not a lot of things are going to break.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of like when, like at Barstool and whatnot, we unfortunately, when Dave bought the company back, he had to let a lot of people go. There's a lot of producers that were let go and whatnot. And he said like, I didn't want to do that, oh, we were losing this amount of money. We had to cut some fat, and we lost a lot of good people. But he said in that moment, he's like, a lot of things are going to break. Let them break, and we'll figure it out as we go. Now, it's a lot different for a company than a country, but it is like kind of and he's obviously like kind of a crazy guy. He's a crazy looking guy. But yeah.
So then there's another South American country, Nayib Bukele. You heard about this from El Salvador?
Yes, he's unbelievable. I watched his interview with Tucker Carlson a few days ago.
Yeah.
And also he put the country on a standard of Bitcoin.
Yeah. He literally turned around the highest crime-ridden country.
Yeah, powered by Bitcoin.
Yeah.
He's unbelievable. And then also his stance on crime was huge too. Like he put them all in jail.
And you know, it's crazy. You know how many people fled El Salvador because they were getting cracked down on and ended up in the United States?
Of course, no. They're there was like, the guy, Johnny McEntee.
No, I don't know.
You look him up. He's the guy, the right stuff guy who does the videos, and he was in Trump's cabinet. He was a UConn quarterback. Look up John McEntee.
How do you spell his last name?
McEntee.
Okay.
He did one. He was like, the good news is across the world in South America, crime rates have dropped to historic lows.
Yeah.
The bad news is all the criminals are now in America.
Yeah.
I think there was a South American prime minister, president, or whatnot, who said, like, yeah, all our criminals went to America.
I mean, the thing is, people are so oblivious and they're so naive to that. Like just in Queens the other day, there was an Ecuadorian
who raped the.
Yeah. And like, I think it was a predominantly Dominican neighborhood.
Did you see the guy who caught him?
They caught him.
They caught him and they like beat the fuck out of him until the police came. And the police were like, oh, we're not going to look at it. Like, and the guy, I watched his interview yesterday because the news got the guy who caught him. And I was just, first of all, awful story. They made somebody watch. So a girl was raped and then they made her friend watch. They held her at knife point. Was that like, I was wondering, is that like a gain initiation thing?
Who had to watch?
Like her friends.
Oh my!
In the park, it was awful.
From the sounds of it, this guy, he entered the country with his son, and they processed him back in California. Yeah,
his son,
and they got him all the way in New York. And what's funny is that the bodega. I mean, it's ridiculous that it's gotten to mob justice to get these guys.
Well, now there's like it almost is like in a weird way like bringing Americans together. There's
all sorts of Americans.
It's like it's almost like the most American pride that there's ever really been, because I mean, can you in 2020 when Biden won, could you imagine him in his year when he's up for re-election in 2024 campaigning on securing the border? Like that was never.
Well, you know, it's so crazy.
That was my take that I texted you about that I wanted to say. The wall that Donald Trump built and wanted to build was one of the greatest political decisions that could have ever happened in the history of America. He got a lot of shit for it, and it would have solved all the problems.
The crazy thing is,
it's one of the greatest moves in political history, and it was shut down. And now the same people are like, we actually should have, like, everybody made fun of it, like it, and even me. And it was like, people were like, but now people are, the wall was there and they continued to make it.
Yeah.
It was going to be finished.
Yes. The thing is, it's not, by the way, I have nothing against South American people coming to look for a new life.
Oh, well, yeah, no, I don't think anybody is.
Honestly, that's not the, like to the threat to the country, that is not the problem. Even the criminals coming, yes, the crime rate is going to go up. But from the percentage wise, like most people from South American countries, Central American countries who come to the country, they like percentage wise commit crimes at a lower rate than United States citizens. The huge problem is,
well, they're committing a crime already. Like it's 100% unless they come legally.
Right. But once they're in, the real problem is,
and people say that it's like, how do we know? We don't even have numbers. We know.
Look, there is that argument. Yes, they're all.
We know where the like what happened in our universe 1 billion years ago, but we don't know how COVID started or the Vegas shooter's motive.
Yeah, But what's crazy is that if you look at the videos from the border, it's not just Central and South American immigrants. It is people who travel to Central and South America to get into the country. There was, and by the way, this is white people from Georgia and Russia, because Georgia's heating up right now.
Oh, really? What's going on there?
Basically, they just input a new president who is like pro-Russia, and there's a lot of Russians moving into Georgia,
Which presents an obvious issue.
right? Well, the Russians moving into Georgia are trying to do what they did in Crimea, which was flip the government to a one that was
So they think he's like a Putin puppet.
right. So basically, Russians move into Georgia in some way because the borders aren't like
They're very close. Yeah. And
they're very close, and I don't think it's like, oh, we used to live here, the Soviet Union. They all move in.
and then they were
moves
saying,
in.
this is my land.
They change the demographic, do what they did in Crimea. Like everyone living here is ethnic Russians, and then they subvert the national identity of the Georgians. And then, hopefully the US, like then when that happens, the US tries to put back someone who's like pro-Western. And then Russia's like, what the fuck? Basically what happened in Ukraine. Because like Putin's smart. He knows the demographic game. So he just sends Russians. He was like, we'll pay you to go to Georgia. Like that's what happens a lot. But there's tons of like people from all over the world trying to come over the border. We don't know where they're from. We don't know if they're ISIS. We don't know if they're.
They also changed the rules. Like Biden changed the rules that this entire immigration process funds the cartel. The cartel,
Yes.
like, I mean, obviously drugs is their number one moneymaker, but their second moneymaker is this.
Well, you know what they do?
And then they expect you to send money back once you come here. There's 14-year-olds working on farms in Maine, in New Hampshire and whatnot, on dairy farms. And then like, if you don't pay, obviously the cartel sends people to every little town. So it's like, oh, like this, they know everything.
So are you talking about the marijuana farms in China? I mean, the Chinese marijuana farms?
No.
You're talking about are you talking about individuals who were told once you cross the border and start making money, you have to send it back?
Yes, because you have to pay the cartel $8,000, $10,000, $12,000.
Mhm.
And then if you don't, you're working, then you have to send more and more and more. And then before you know, it's classic, like organized crime. There's loan sharking and whatnot. And then also they have control over where they get the jobs and whatnot. It's all one big network. And then there's a cartel member in each little town. So they know where every guy is. They know when payday is. They know where they go and drink, yada, yada, yada.
Oh, and all these
then
smaller.
And they're all, because a lot of just how like humans work, there are a lot of these people, they work in the same jobs and then they all hang out together. Of course. I mean,
Yeah.
they're
Migrant settlements in all sorts of like,
yeah, of course.
the agriculture industry in California is a classic one where they're all in these housing. I mean, the thing is, the human trafficking network of not just like people talk about sex trafficking, but there is human labor trafficking. And even though it's not technically slavery, because these guys get a wage, it's technically like they're housing them. It's basically.
Let me try to find this article that I read about.
I would say that illegal immigrants are the most exploited labor force in the United
100%.
States. And the thing is, that's kind of what a lot of these individuals who keep the border open, who want it, they understand there's an economic growth impact of having legal immigrants in the country, which is just basically they're trying to create a exploitable labor force and subvert all other labor in the United States. Like wages haven't grown, and that's sort of part of that reason is why. And did you see that Biden is trying to make a bunch of them able to vote?
Yeah, I haven't looked into that completely. There is that's also, I mean, the whole voting situation is just one of the dumbest things in the history of anything. If you don't have an ID and you can't show it on voting day, you shouldn't be allowed to vote. Point blank, period. I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, so
and the ID is the easiest fucking thing to get, and it's not just the driver's license ID.
Yeah,
we're talking like you just need literal identification. You can get it for free.
Yeah, I think at the post office.
Yes, you can.
Yeah,
and then it's just like somehow it's like, oh, we don't know how many people are coming across the border, but we do know how many legal immigrants are committing crimes and how many percent of them. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Get it together.
Biden unveils plan allowing hundreds of thousands to gain U.S. citizenship. Advocates say U.S. president's effort to regularize some undocumented immigrants will help keep families together. Okay. This is a total ploy to get more votes for Biden.
Yeah, I haven't looked into that. It's possible. I have seen people bitching about some moves recently though.
I mean, how many in his whole presidency, how many million immigrants do you think have come into the country illegally?
I think there's numbers. It's more than ever.
So, I mean, that's another ploy, because if you can just like guarantee yourself 1 million votes by giving them citizenship, I mean, that's kind of subverting the U.S. citizens a bit. Like, what advantage as a U.S. citizen do we have over a foreign national in our own country?
What do you mean?
Like, with citizenship, what benefits do we get that, say, someone who is not a citizen do? Like, we can own property, we can but everyone else can do all those things. Work, you can get, but
Like, I mean, I'm sure there are some things, but there really isn't that much. Like, anybody can buy property. That's a big one, which is not the case in most countries.
yeah,
Like, you can rent, but you can't like buy land or property. And like, I was just in Iceland. If you want to buy land or property in Iceland, you have to be an Icelandic citizen.
or have an Icelandic business partner.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, with that, like, so much real estate is inflated by foreign investment.
Exactly. That's why that's the system. Like, that's what I was talking about with Argentina. Like, how do you even rip this system down? People would be in the streets. Like, it would have an economic effect that would be massive. Also, Trump was saying he wants to get rid of income tax. That would be crazy too. I don't know.
I mean, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I don't. But can the country survive? Like, we've made an entire system based off of all of this. Like, the system is because of this, and things will fail, and they will fail bad, and then crime will, like, you almost have to think about it from like a 30-year strategy standpoint. It's like,
I mean, what if we just said no debt? Like, we're not paying back any of our debt.
well, that's fair. Like, that would be a huge power move, and then also kind of just like, what are you guys gonna do?
Yeah. I mean, most of the debt we owe is to our own, like,
This all connected, yeah. Like, the questions are endless, and I get why people kind of just turn off. Like, it's almost better to not think about all of it.
yeah,
It's like philosophically, and it's just like kind of like,
people don't want to confront themselves with the truth because, like, dealing with it's so difficult.
and also it's kind of, there is an aspect of like, what can you do about it? Now, you and I, like, we do have a quote unquote platform where you can
Yeah.
kind of make an impact, but I also think individuals can too. Now, is the impact worth it? Who knows? I mean, that's the question of every person. Like, who knows if it's quote unquote worth it? Who knows if you're even right? But at the time, like, when we speak, we think it's the truth, at least, or we're trying to find out. And I know people sometimes will disagree with it, but even when we first did the podcast, you asked me like, "Oh, do you want anything cut?" I like everything that I've said even today too. It's like it feels as if I can back up in terms of, maybe this was wrong, but I did feel as if this is why I believe this, or this is why I said this. And also, like you said, what about, it's tough. Like, how do you run a country with illegal immigration? It's difficult. Like, how do you handle immigration? And also, illegal immigration also funds a lot. And then also, what's the connection with the cartel? Is the cartel pressuring us to continue to allow it? I don't know.
Well, no, the thing is,
Like, how many political pockets are they in?
I mean, think about Mexico's elections. They
I know.
killed 36 presidential candidates,
Yeah. So,
and the one connected to BlackRock won.
yeah.
And now there's avian bird flu in Mexico.
Yeah. I don't know. It's there's so many connections. You can almost tie everything back together, and then, but I would assume the cartel has some pull in America.
Do you think not a political level pull?
I don't know, dude.
I mean, that was the other theory on the Vegas shooting, was that,
Bro, they make so much money
yeah.
on our border.
But Project Fast and Furious,
Well, Project Fast and Furious, like, that's one of, like, everyone's like, Obama's the greatest president of all time. Project Fast and Furious is one of his biggest failures. we supplied the cartel just like we supplied ISIS,
dude. But
and now we supply Al Qaeda. Al Qaeda's back.
That's what they're saying happened with Paddock in Vegas. It might have been Paddock was selling more weapons to the cartel, and they set up an FBI raid because Trump wasn't doing that shit anymore.
The FBI, like I think we'll never know, but I think FBI is one of the biggest frauds out there.
Frauds is in they don't actually control as much, or frauds in their
Like, what if they really like? I guess it's really hard to say that. Like, how do you know what they've stopped and whatnot? But like, they're somehow every mass shooter's on their list.
acting on it. I mean, their lists could be so huge.
I know it's tough. I don't 100% know. I do know what's his name was a fraud. James Coney or whatever his name was.
Oh, Comey, not Coney. Coney's in the jungles of Uganda.
Is he still? Oh, I watched Sound of Freedom for the first time.
Oh, you did? What do you think? Did you hear about that guy again? He's like a sex addict.
No, it was what? Is sex addict? Or are you talking about there was somebody that funded, he was an executive producer that had like a little bit of child pornography. Like it was a guy who funded like 50,000 to the.
No, it was the guy who is the special agent who
The special agent.
the Mormon.
The actual special agent.
The actual special agent
Is a sex addict.
apparently he was like hooking up with a bunch of, but that could be easily to tear him down.
Yeah, I don't know. But I will say, I mean, like it was a good movie, I thought. Sex trafficking, I would assume, is still as high as it's ever been.
There's more slaves now in the United States than ever.
And like how do we categorize slave? Like a 14-year-old working on like a farm?
Yeah. I mean,
I would agree with that. I was just wondering.
Like wild.
Yeah, and then sex. I think that's one thing that people don't want to admit, specifically with underage kids. It's quite sad, and there will always be. It will always be around. It's I mean, bad. It's tough, and it happens all over the world. Though.
How pervasive is this blackmail network that apparently Diddy is a part of? Epstein just got revealed. Who's replacing Epstein in that?
Well,
like, what do you?
Well, like who? Like, I mean, then we get into like who controls that network.
Yeah,
and there's some people that, yeah, I don't know. I think there's some people that I'm sure he's been replaced.
But who do you think Diddy?
Who do I think Diddy's like controlled by?
Yeah, who do you think's making Diddy like?
Diddy was controlled by. Diddy was essentially like an industry plant, quote unquote. This Diddy was an 18-year-old intern in New York City. And then by the age of 22 or 23, he was given like Bad Boy Records. Like he was he was the owner of Bad Boy Records at 23 with no money, somehow, some way. And it was because the guy that he interned under, like took him under his wing, quote unquote, was a guy who was like the head producer of a very huge company. I don't know if it was Universal, one of those. And then essentially it was saying like he then controlled, and then it was the endless loop of like maybe Diddy, like that guy did something for the producer. Now Diddy does it. It's kind of like a I don't want to call it the hazing technique, but like they they have to do acts or whatnot, and then there's a blackmail network, and then you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to say this, you have to say that. When you're needed, you're needed. But outside of that, as long as you take care of what you're told to do, everything will be fine in your world.
So did you see that stuff about Tupac being an actor, playing a role?
So yeah, well, there's a huge belief process, I think, that like hip hop as a whole is like controlled by the CIA. Like it was like
to promote
violence and whatnot in America, and specifically within the Black community.
So like Tupac gets picked up from Juilliard. He was at Juilliard, right?
Yeah, I think
he was a ballerina.
Yeah.
And he's just like, play this gangster rapper. I mean, does that, I don't know, seeing the videos of him before he was Tupac, like he's like, oh shit, like this is nothing like Tupac.
Yeah, I don't know. Everybody's different. There's different. I don't know enough. I do think I've seen a lot that like CIA is like, and then I think if you look into the NWO and their connections, it's not like these guys were just living on the block.
Yeah. So Andre Harrell gave Combs, like that was that guy that you were talking about who took him under his wing at Uptown Records. Usher then lived with Combs, P. Diddy, for a year in New York when he was 13. And then Usher was with Bieber.
And then Diddy was also with Bieber.
Diddy was weird with Bieber. I mean, what the fuck's going on?
No. There is like, and then you kind of think about how like a lot of those young popping,
Yeah.
like they were like industry plants, but now industry plant like has a whole new meaning. And then also you kind of, and it's, but who controls that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you connect a lot of dots in that. I'm not going to do it, but there's some people above it all that there is kind of like a controlling aspect. And I would assume, I mean, like if you were wondering like who's the new Epstein and whatnot, I mean, Epstein's right-hand woman was Ghislaine Maxwell, whose father was who?
Yeah. Robert Maxwell.
And then who worked for who?
The Mossad.
Yeah. And then it's like, maybe it's like, maybe that's still going on. I don't know. These are just all things that are facts.
Yeah. And then there's that other guy who did the exact same thing Epstein did for Mossad in the 1960s.
And then also sexual blackmail is as powerful as it gets. Because if you are seen on camera with like a 14-year-old girl or boy, or even if you're seen on camera with a 22-year-old man and you're like a guy, you're a 60-year-old politician or whatnot, or anywhere, you don't want that out. Ruins family, career, whatnot. Now do what we say.
Yeah.
Or maybe we're just all crazy. Like maybe we're just you and I.
It's crazy. Like we've never seen any of this released. You know, like they've never had to use the blackmail. Like no one's ever stepped out of line and had to. It's like it's very effective, but it's almost too effective.
That is a good point. Like that's a good counterpoint. Like maybe there is no sexual blackmail.
Yeah, maybe we're just crackpots.
You know, we could be. That's the scenario. I think a lot about life in a lot of ways, specifically one through probability. There's a probability that you and I are just like what they say on the internet, truly crazy idiots that are convincing themselves of something that's not true. There's a probability of that. I don't think it's high.
Yeah, but I don't but
I do think there's a probability, and the world is just something that like it's perfect, and it's just like there's nothing really bad going on, or it's the world. Also, I saw something recently.
What?
I never knew this. How Washington, D.C. is set up.
With AIPAC?
No.
Okay.
But yes. No, I'm talking about literal geographically. Have you ever seen this?
Oh, yeah.
It's
the
like
district.
The district is made like the Freemason sign and whatnot. And then there's a belief process. Like the Freemason stuff actually may be.
Oh.
Like the actual, like maybe they've convinced us of that AIPAC is this bad and whatnot, and it's just the Freemasons. But how it's created and the angles, they're perfect. Of the monument, of the White House, of everything. It's I did some reading on the plane about it. It was insane.
Yeah, I'm literally looking at the General Winfield Scott statue right now. That stuff, that secret society stuff.
The secret society, yeah.
The only reason I don't think the Masons are as crazy as you think. And I think the group of Masons was just a place where guys who were fairly vetted, weren't working for any government agency, could discuss like matters in politics and like ideas of freedom, rebellion, because there weren't places where you could openly talk freely about politics or Enlightenment thinking, because you would be branded a heretic. Like think about the stuff that like a lot of people escaped in England, across Europe. Like religious persecution was much more like podcasting and talking. Thank God we're in America, but they were just having these types of discussions in the Masonic lodges being like, yo, what if every man had rights, like inalienable rights?
Or maybe they were just like, no, we need to create a nation that's a fine oiled machine. A machine of law, policy, ritual, and holidays, which collectively raises its constituents' energies and structures them to resonate towards a collective intent. A machine to harness natural energies for a specific duration.
Well, what about the agrarian nation of Yeoman farmers? That was what Jefferson wanted, and Jefferson was a
in 1793, George Washington, proudly wearing his Masonic apron, laid the cornerstone of his new Atlantis under the watchful eye of the great architect of the universe.
Yeah, so
the layout of the city streets and monuments were based upon sacred geometry, astrological alignments, and Masonic principles that helped create an etheric grid that channeled the type of Luciferian energy 24 hours, 7 days a week. For the presidential inauguration, every 4 years at exactly high noon, 19 and a half days into the new year, on the balcony of the U.S. Capitol, symbolizing the ever-pregnant belly of Isis facing the Washington Monument, the erect phallus of Osiris, Washington Monument, a new Masonic president is born.
You know, there may be some but the thing is,
in 4-year cycles, not unlike a menstrual cycle, Isis gives birth to the next United States president, who symbolizes the rebirth of Osiris as Horus.
I mean, there's definitely some elements of pagan imagery when it comes to all sorts of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like the church, like for example, the Easter rabbit is technically pagan. Like Egyptian gods and all that, technically pagan. But I think part of that thinking and part of that theme, like Osiris may have been like a meme to them. Like
yeah, no. It's true. It's true. The geometry of Washington as a whole is crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is nuts. But if you're going to design a city from scratch.
No, but it was perfect to this teaching. Like the angles are legitimately perfect.
I know, but they were starting from scratch. They were creating their own capital.
That is also true.
Also, look up when modern DC was formed, because the British burned a lot. Like, when did these streets actually take form? I think it was more these dudes were just like, the Masonic temples were some of the only places that they could speak secularly without being tried for heresy. I mean, you had what was going on at the same time. You had remnants of, the Spanish Inquisition was way earlier, but the persecution by the Church of England on Catholics, on Quakers, Puritans. Like, what denomination was George Washington? Because
Masonic or Freemason or whatever.
He was Anglican, which I think is the British Church. But I think part of it was like when you went to the Masonic Lodge, you're just shooting the shit. Like, it's a lot of like, it's a boys club, but it's also like, we can speak freely here. We're Masons. Because Mason, like, I think there's some story, and they've caught this like ritual on camera thousands of times that the Masons do, of this dude, like they fake this guy's execution and death because he wouldn't, and part of it is that like this guy wouldn't give up his Masonic brothers to the authorities, and he died because he wouldn't give up his brothers. So it's kind of like if you're in here, you don't speak of anything that leaves here, and you like no authoritarian, no anti-free speech. That's why freedom of speech and freedom of religion is so highly touted, because it's part of it's like, we want everyone to be free here, almost like in a Masonic lodge. And I know I'm banging for the Masons right now. And like, look, some people say that they hold the body of Christ, and like they're protecting the body of Christ. And that's why they are so secretive, because that's the big thing they tell you. But if the body of Christ, if they have the body of Christ, then that means that religion isn't real and Christianity isn't real, because he didn't ascend to heaven and he's not the Son of God. So that's the big truth that they may be hiding, hypothetically. So then they're talking about things as if God doesn't exist. So like, how does things work? Like, it's not God. Like, science was often thought even back then to be heretical in itself. Like, even talking about like, you know, the sun, the stars was like not allowed. So it's more of like a pursuit of knowledge,
Yeah.
if anything.
That was one I just saw, like literally one tweet and then went down a rabbit hole. I don't, that makes sense. That's the most I've learned about the Freemasons and whatnot, and their entire basis, and then what founded the country. It was just interesting, this exact geometry and whatnot. But you are right.
But
like,
they did
you have
design
to. It was a design city, so it would make
Yeah.
sense that they sat down and whatnot. But
Yeah, like they're like, oh, like think about it, like, yo, bros, we just created our own country. Let's design the fucking capital. Like,
yeah, no, yeah, there is an aspect there.
I mean, there was a lot. Not all the founding fathers were Masons, but a lot of them were, and also a lot of them were young as fuck.
But back then, how old were they? 24 back then was like, you were a man. You were a man at 12.
Yeah,
Like, and I'm not saying that to like, it's just like development's much different now.
yeah. You became, there was a lot,
Like, people were getting married very young at 12, 13.
because you might die.
Exactly. It was a much different time. And that's a lot of people play like the moral game of what went on back then to now, and it's not necessarily fair, because it was a different time.
So, do you think the mattress firm that's in the middle of the I'm looking at Washington D.C. right now. There's a mattress firm that's in the middle of the sickle part of the Masonic imagery. I forget what it's called. But like, that's pretty wild. I think this symbolism is in it. Like, look, do you think the grid system of New York City is, you know, supposed to, you know, be like the Excel spreadsheet of cells? Each block is a cell, so that like we keep track of monetary wealth, and like we're the
Really?
monetary.
People have said that?
No, I'm making it up right now.
Oh, I was almost like, that's very interesting.
They're like, hey, you know, the grid system in New York City, it's almost like a ledger or an Excel spreadsheet. So like, we are the, you know, capital of the world, as in capitalism. Like, New York City is probably the financial capital of the world.
Yeah, I think they're trying to change that a little bit, though.
Where do you think they're trying to take it?
There was somebody that's opening, I think, a new stock exchange in Austin or somewhere in Texas. I think it was a guy that works for maybe BlackRock or Blackstone or whatever.
Oh yeah, everyone's moving since the pandemic.
But they're actually launching something like a true market, like kind of like a NASDAQ and whatnot. To I think in the middle of
Have you heard about the city of London being its own country? To like to get away from certain financial regulations?
no, but I wouldn't be shocked by anything like that, just to try. And London's a huge financial hub. Maybe that's why.
Yeah. Yeah, City of London, not part of UK. No, the City of London is part of the United Kingdom. Okay. So the City of London Corporation, Britain's oldest local government, which powers. Okay, that's probably. But when, yeah, maybe we're just like, there is the secret city of London is not part of the UK.
TXSE. The Texas Stock Exchange hopes to become third largest in the world. BlackRock, Citadel Securities backed TXSE, Texas Stock Exchange, group to launch soon. So BlackRock and Citadel coming together is kind of like the Bloods and the Crips coming together to try to fight against another.
Well, no, they all own each other.
That is true. They all just are just like buddies.
As it was explained to me, the reason why they all own certain amounts of each company is because they're a brokerage. So they own it, but their client gives them the money to buy it. So if you like look at, there's this one graphic I saw of a square that was basically like every chunk in the square was how much a certain company owned of that company. And then if you see which companies own that company and you go to the back edge, you'll see that everyone just owns everyone, and it's a gigantic monopoly.
Yeah, that is, yes. You know what you should have on? Have you tried to get on Ian Carroll yet?
Ian Carroll. I'll DM on Twitter right now.
He's the t-shirt brand guy.
Cancel this clothing company.
Yeah, he's unbelievable.
Oh, he doesn't have any DMs.
He's on Rumble though. Try on Instagram, and he's on Instagram.
I'm always looking for.
I gave you 2 guys you should interview.
I know Ian Carroll, and then
You want me to give you the other guy?
Yeah, the other.
This
guy,
is this is Vegas.
Shooter, yeah.
Go through his Twitter. He still tweets about it a lot. John Cullen, Cullen. He's also talking a lot about I think the chicken or bird flu right now.
Yeah, that one.
If you want to, he would probably talk about both.
The bird flu stuff is wild because bird flu is so goddamn. John Cullen, is this long stories for no reasons?
No, this John Cullen.
Yeah, we'll consult after. But bird flu. So if there has been some human, like the first recorded human death was in Mexico, bounced from cattle. So I mean, do I believe that they're going to try to destroy all of the food sources, all of the poultry, all of the beef stock in order to make us eat bugs? Maybe. I mean, the eat the bug stuff, I think, is more of a like venture capital move.
You think so?
Yeah, I think it just is something with a huge upside of like reaping rewards.
And also, you don't have to deal with like, you know, the upkeep of making beef and all what. It's a lot.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. No.
But, well, hopefully you're enjoying your July 4th week.
Yeah. And hopefully the FBI doesn't target you.
Yeah.
For no reason because they have nothing better to do.
Do you think we're on government lists?
Here's a question. Do you think they have something that listens to every podcast, not something
AI, yeah.
that almost that gives them kind of like a record in case anything ever pops off? Like then it's like, oh, this person believes this, that the other is like more likely to.
I mean, I was talking to this guy, Ashton Forbes, and he claims that nuclear technology is totally defunct, is totally of the past, that we now have technology that is so much more effective on producing energy. And by the time this airs, you would have heard this interview, but basically he says that he has this machine that captures the waves of space-time and basically like a like limitless energy, like Tesla type stuff. Totally crazy, but he claimed, he was the same guy who's looking at the MH370 videos, and he's claiming that, hey, and he was talking to me, I had him on because he was one of our.
Wait, does this kind of connect back to like what Tucker Carlson was talking about with the UFOs on Joe Rogan?
Yeah. But he's saying that you can capture that force, and basically like a windmill captures wind
to power everything.
Yeah, to power like an ether. There's like an ether that flows through space-time. And if you align it correctly, you can basically.
That's an interesting.
A windmill. I mean, it makes sense. Like there definitely is an energy that is sort of gravity, space, time that you could capture. I mean, it would solve all the Earth's problems, basically.
Yeah, imagine you had this guy on, and it turns out he was the Nikola Tesla of his time.
Yeah.
When Nikola Tesla was around, were people like, this guy was unbelievable, or did it take people a long time?
No, he died alone in a apartment that Donald Trump's uncle investigated before his death, after he died. Yes, this is a wild story. You want to talk conspiracies? Donald Trump's uncle investigated Tesla's apartment and look through all of his teachings.
Do people think it's like connected to Trump?
Well, no, there's a book.
Yes, there is. And it goes back to like his grandkids are like a
Baron
Trump is
a time traveler.
Yes, that's what it is. Yes.
So
I've seen this. Yeah.
Donald Trump's uncle looked through Nikola Tesla's apartment after he died, read all of his works, and then, fast forward, say what you want. Baron Trump, the time traveler, is a book from the 1870s that talks about, basically being the son of an emperor and traveling back in time and all these crazy things. Also, Biff from Back to the Future.
Okay.
Did you remember Back to the Future Part 2? Where
Not really, but
Biff, like, he's the bully. He has Donald Trump's hair, and he's living this dystopian nightmare where Biff is a billionaire because he found the sports gambling book that he went back in time.
Yes, yeah.
So it's like Biff is based on Trump. So everyone's like, holy fuck, is Trump got access to some crazy interstellar knowledge? That's neither here nor there, but like, is Barron about to be like a time traveler to go back in time to try to fix the timeline?
That's unbelievable. One last thing on Trump, and then I'll leave on this. In America, did you see what Chrissy Teigen said about Trump?
What'd she say?
She said she's concerned that she'll be targeted if Trump wins re-election. You can't rerun the 2016 script. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
It like everything they said what was going to happen didn't happen. They said, like, look up her exact quote that she's going to get targeted by Donald Trump if he wins. Chrissy, you're not. You're going to remain one of the richest people in this country. You'll probably make more money. And also, that's such 2015, 2016 Trump fantasy talk where it's like, they're going to lock all these people up, put them in encampments and whatnot. Like, I was like in shock when I read the quote. That's not going to happen.
There's also the people who are like, yo, he's going to make himself president for life.
He's not. He lost.
Yeah.
Chrissy Teigen, Trump. Chrissy Teigen fears Donald Trump coming after her.
Yeah.
For her tweets. Donald Trump is not going to come after you. Chrissy Teigen has plenty of regret about her time on Twitter, but her tweets about Donald Trump are positive.
The only one who got kicked off of Twitter for tweets was Donald Trump.
Yeah, and other people that were the opposite side of you. Like, you stayed on Twitter.
Yeah.
People that questioned things and whatnot were kicked off of Twitter, but that's never talked about.
Well, Jack, thank you so much for coming on.
I don't think anybody should be kicked off of Twitter. Maybe child porn.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. But my only thing is, like, how do you prove it? Like, what, like will they start, like, how Tucker said, I know people that are not going to use, like, they don't use government laptops or whatnot because they're afraid that people will put child pornography on there and then they'll just again, blackmail.
Jeez.
So it's like, is someone gonna so it's one of those things where it's, will it be used? Yeah, I think child pornography, worst thing in the world, but will it be used by the elite to take down the people that are pushing the truth?
Or will it be used? Well, they say it's all deep fakes.
Well, that's what they said. Biden was at the dinner or like that event with Obama. And he needed, like, Obama put his hand on his back and helped him guide him off stage. And then the entire left said it didn't happen. They said, I was there. This didn't happen. And then what's her name called it a deep fake. What's her name?
It's all real.
What's her name? Fuck. She's the worst. She's the president.
The press
secretary. What's her name?
I don't know.
Baptiste or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, she yeah. So but and then Biden also, it's like Biden, like yeah. I think happy July 4th. Hopefully America is, I'm still positive about it and whatnot, but I think it's almost bigger than America. It's like just I don't know.
You see Civil War?
I didn't watch the movie.
No, yeah, I heard it was
okay.
I heard it was ridiculous.
I heard people were a little bit surprised that it just didn't have any political undertones though.
I thought the whole thing was a political.
No, they actually gave it credit.
Oh, really?
They gave it credit because California and Texas came together in the movie.
Well, most of California is pretty red.
I guess, but I think there wasn't any like, oh, these crazy people, Trump's like, it wasn't that. I think they just really made it like a Civil War movie. Like there wasn't really like any like true political, like there, at least that's how it was described to me.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. Everyone,
See ya.
drink some beers. July 4th. Go America.